Okay, so what I'm trying to do, and I had another proposal, but this will only work if more than half the class wants to participate. Because well, I can't really say that. Maybe I will do it anyway, but I really don't like recording without a live studio audience. I'm just not that funny by myself. I think I'm a lot more entertaining when I have people to talk to. So in the learning path, you guys all know the learning path, right? First, when you first get into the classroom, you get this thing here, and it tells you who's posted and all this stuff. And this is a very important announcement. And I have discovered that some people have not noticed there are significant clues in that important announcement. So you might want to reread that announcement and find out what's going on. Anyway, aside from that, if you go to the learning path, which is the easiest way to go through your coursework, in my opinion, you'll find that there's the drawing session info, which is right here. That will always take you, and it should always work. You can download this to your computer so that you have it with you. This is this month's drawing sessions. I'm not missing any days that I know of so far. We're also going to be doing this month's challenge is Inktober, starts on Monday. I think I'm going to offer a little bonus extra credit thing if you actually draw every day, even if it's only for 15 minutes, something in ink. You can go to this link and find out all about it and post it. I'm going to make a special place in the classroom because I really love Inktober. I will reward you for that. Now, if you want to be on my personal mailing list, which I have yet to port over to MailChimp, so it's a real mailing list. It will be soon. Right now it's a manual mailing list. You can send the phrase, I want to be a minion in training, to my personal email. And if you would like to have your very own minion card, which I suppose you guys will want to see. So let me do this. Here we are. Lovely, lovely. Isn't that lovely? Oh, and there's me. But I took off my ear and my hat. I was all dressed up earlier. God, I look like crap. Anyway, what? Orange juice. Okay, where? Minion cards. I'm looking for my minion cards right here. These, if you want to be a card-carrying minion of the Mad Professor, you will get one of these minion cards. As you can see, they have two sides. They're lovely, thick cards. You get your name, you get your number. These have to be laminated before I can send them out. So, hey, Raina, there's yours right there. Ooh, this is what they look like when they're laminated and used for a while. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, you can be a card-carrying. Oh, JT, there's yours, but he's not around. Anyway, I'm just collecting enough of them to send. If you want a minion card, you have to include a mailing address in that request to be on my mailing list. And that is that. So there's Inktober, there's the Minion in Training minion list. You get 5 points for every drawing group you attend and 5 points if you take your drawings done during the session and post them in, let's go back to the learning path here. Go to Questions for the Mad Professor, and you will see extra credit options. Lots of stuff to do for extra credit. That's only good if you have something in every single assignment that you've done, because it is, you can't skip over items and try to make it up this way. There's lots of things. Oh, there's one other thing I want to add to this. Wait, no, is it in here? Wait a second. Is it in here? Oh, yes, here, this link, if it works. Sometimes the links are broken, and if they're broken, please tell me. It seems to work. It's a link that takes you to my Mad Professor bonus stuff. And in my Mad Professor bonus stuff, there are a variety of ebooks, well, PDFs. I encourage you to get your own copies, hard copies. I have hard copies of all these books. It's much better to have them in your hands. But Peck's Anatomy, How to Draw for Animation, Animal Drawing, Jack Ham's Drawing, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which is an awesome book. Gesture Drawing for Animation, that's a pretty cool book too. See, this is actually a really good book. This dude, Walt Snatchfield, is amazing. And Ellenberger's Animal Anatomy, Bridgman's Construction. These are all bonus books that I have made available to my students to use while they're taking my classes, but I encourage you to buy your own because we don't like to pirate things, right? Right. Okay, cool. If you have, let's see, so you can do drawings from direct observation, you can do life drawings, you do anatomical drawings, you can come to the live drawing classes, you can post your drawings that you make there in the other place I'll show you in a second. You can do master copies from any of these books, or if you have an artist that you absolutely love and want to draw like or similar to, or want to learn their techniques, just let me know which artist, send me a sample of what you're talking about, and you can probably do that for extra credit too. That's just the extra credit. And you post it here. Anything. This is where the life drawings go, surveys, screen grabs, or anything that I say is, anything except the welcome email, which you have to email me. Oh, you want to do a Boris copy? If you want to do a Boris copy, dude, it's going to have to be like, blow my mind. Okay? And I think you should skip Boris and do Frazetta, because Frazetta is better. Boris paints from photographs. He's a nice guy and everything. He does great work, but he paints from photographs. Frazetta is tons better, and he was the original. But Michelangelo was the original, actually. But if you really like his style, that's cool. Mostly drawing. We're not going to be trying to do any painting copies here because that isn't the purpose of this class. All right. Now, moving on down to the bottom, we have some demos. Now, this I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I've added this. This is my own personal edition. I wish there was a way I could make it stand out better. I had it up higher, but I thought that would interfere with the actual milestones. There's some useful demos on animation, which are just some things I picked up on the internet that I thought were pretty cool. Traditional keyframing is something from that Stanford book, the Animator Survival Kit, which is a very famous book. This is a sample of pose-to-pose animation, which we're going to be doing in week 2, or milestone 2, which is the head turn. Pose-to-pose explains it a little bit better. And he is using a tablet, but it's a mix between this is done traditionally and this is done by tablet. It really doesn't matter what tool you use. All that matters is that it looks good. But if you can't draw with a pencil, you're unlikely to be able to draw with a tablet. I've not seen any successful I have not seen any people that can't draw with a pencil draw better with a tablet. They all start with the pencil. There are exceptions to the rule. There's always exceptions to the rule. True, prove it to me and you've got it. All right. So, and then this is an animating walk cycle. So these are just these are really great little, be quiet. It's just a really great little thing. Okay, back. Going back to demos here. The other demo that I think might be useful to you guys that are trying to figure out what software you want to use, because it really doesn't matter what software you use as long as you can do it. Yeah. I would say work with both. Work with both. And the kind of tablet you're using can make a big difference. But I find that when I work with a tablet, I use Photoshop. There's a lot of people that use, what's that, Clip Studio Paint? A lot of people like Clip Studio Paint for the tablet. I've never used it, but my daughter uses it. I find when I draw with a tablet, which I did way too much last weekend, trying to do a sample thing for the other class that I was teaching, it cripples me. It just is not a natural way for me to draw. I'm trained as a traditional artist. I draw with my arm and my shoulder. and my whole body if I have the opportunity, and it just kills my wrist to draw with a tablet, so I don't like to do it. Now, there's two things in here in the Photoshop hacks. Also, I am thinking of starting a 4th live drawing session that is specifically for Photoshop hacks. Just tips and tricks on how to fool around with Photoshop, doing weird stuff with Photoshop, if you guys are interested in that. So this one here is, yeah, it's kind of rawish. I'll turn that off, that sound off. But essentially what happens is somebody did this in Toon Boom, I think. Let me open this up big. Somebody did this in Toon Boom, and we converted it to Photoshop. Boy, that's a really lousy, well, whatever. And I walk through the process of exporting out all the frames of this animation from Toon Boom. And then it's a simple process, once you get them exported, to load them back into Photoshop. Actually, it'd be fast for me to just show you the Photoshop thing. But the demo is there, and I'll show you a really quick hack on how to do frames and animation in Photoshop. The other one is a demo of stop that I did the very first time I ever taught this class, which I used with a light box. And I'm drawing on a light box with a pencil, drawing a circle or a square or something like that. And that one is like 20 minutes long. So I did all these drawings, and then I photographed them. They were I show you how to make a peg bar, and photograph them just like a flip book. If you can't do a flip book, you can't do an animation. And then I turn it into an animation at the end on Photoshop, and it actually kind of works. So those are the 2 demos that I have up so far, and I'll have more. And then there's links to videos, short videos on the 12 principles of animation, which I think are really, really super useful. So check those out. Underneath demos, we have project-specific stuff, which I will post this video in, because this is project-specific about this particular class, all the different options that you can use with software. Also notice, I think you should have noticed that there are some Adobe Animate instructional videos. And actually in Milestone 2, I don't know why they put it in Milestone 2, but in Adobe Animate, they're doing a bouncing ball. And that's in Milestone 2. So if you want to check that out, jump ahead and just go through all the tutorials, and you want to use Adobe Animate, that's totally fine. I don't know how to use it. I might learn how to use it. It's just another tool as far as I'm concerned. What's important is that you understand the principles behind animating. That's the most important thing, right? Then in resources, we have under Learner, you'll find our textbooks, useful internet resources, which is about 5 or 6 pages of links, more books, a suggested materials list, suggested drawing practices, my opinion about craftsmanship quality and grading, an inspirational animation video that I really love. Yeah, that was the program I had to use too, and I hated it. I said, I'm not doing Toon Boom. Crap, throw that out. I just used Photoshop. And a few ways of making your own Lightbox and animation table. A couple of videos on that. Super easy. So I would say if you're not super comfortable with a tablet, start with a Lightbox and really thin paper. If you can't do a Lightbox for whatever reason, if you have a window in your house and it's during the day, you can tape your paper to the windows. Now, I will show you, I have in my possession and I got this from Dick Blix, so it's not completely alien by any stretch. You can always cheat the system, and here's how we cheat the system. We're not cheating the system, we're just being, resourceful, right? That's all that really matters is that we, I know. I turn on my, we're following the Kavanaugh thing. It's really crazy. So I turn on my OBS again. And what I have here is, you can get this at Dick's Blix. I got spilled ink on it, but this is actual animation paper. I don't really recommend going this route because this stuff was freaking expensive. It was 100 sheets for like $15 or something crazy. But you can get a little peg bar, and the peg bar holds your paper in place, you see. This is how the traditional animators do it. And then, so each frame is always held on its same spot so that you're always drawing within this place. It's kind of fun, but the paper is really expensive, so I never use it. But I did find, and I don't have a good light box, but I've got a couple other options that are a little less expensive. I got this cheapo light tracer box from Walmart or something, and it's, as you can see, it's falling apart, but it still works. You can take a standard 3-hole ruler, which someone has walked away with. I don't have my 3-hole ruler at my desk. But you can take the 3-hole ruler, and you can take little wooden pegs, and you can put glue 3 little wooden pegs into your ruler, and then you can take your 3-hole punch paper and use that. This is printer paper, piece of cake, easy stuff. It's thin, the light shines through it, works great. You can glue your ruler to the top. So get an old wooden ruler, glue that to the top of your light box, and you've got an animation table. And then finally, the other thing that I got was this little guy, and it's in that list of animation tables, and I have to plug it in. I have to figure out where to plug it in. It's a micro USB. So plug that in, turn on the power, and we got a light box. And as you can see, this paper is pretty thin, so you could put your little pegboard on that, and you can definitely, I'll just tape it down for now to find my ruler. I'll show you, there's a whole instructional thing on how to make a light box for less than $15, I think. So let's just say that I had my ruler thing here. Then you can get this thing out of my face, which would be nice. There we go. And usually, traditionally, you have a peg bar on top and bottom, and the animation paper is punched on both sides. So you can put a, since I don't have a ruler, but I do have a stick. We got that. Now we can do, let's do the ball coming in from the top. So we can draw your ball. Turn this off for even better light. Now, if you're doing it frame by frame, remember 24 frames. Yes, I will. I am recording it, and I will upload it, even though it's a crappy recording, because it's so chunky monkey, but I am recording it for that purpose. So then the next one's going to go. Remember, read your books, look at your tutorials, do your exercises first, because you're going to need to go like ease in and ease out, and I always have to think about it. Further apart they are, the faster they go, and then as they slow down, they get closer together. So it's going to bounce, and then you get your squash, and it's going to bounce up again, and then it might go faster at first, and then as it arcs, they'll start to go slower. They'll get closer together, closer together, closer together, closer together. And also it's got to squash when it comes to the bottom and stretch when it comes up. But it's not shrinking or growing. It's just like you're taking a piece of rubber and literally and stretching it. So you want it to maintain the same volume. That's what makes it look right. But going back to this, if you have to, you can figure out where you want it. I mean, this is what I do. I don't know if it's the right way or not, but I think whatever works is what matters. Trace it over so it stays the same size. And then I've moved it to the next level. Maybe I want to sketch a light arc to help me guide my way down to another piece of paper. It gets to a point where you have to take the bottom pieces off because you can't see through it anymore. And the next one is going to be here. Now, remember, your first animation has to be 5 seconds long. So how many frames is that? Do the math. 24 frames per second, 5 seconds. That's 120 frames or something like that. So technically it's 120 drawings, although you don't always have to draw every single drawing. You might double up some of the drawings, especially when you want something to go slower. Then if you have a scanner, that's the best because you can scan it. If you're going to take a picture, that's a whole other ball of wax because you've got to set yourself up so that, and I'll do a quick demo on that too. Turn this off. If you're going to take pictures of your drawings, no matter what you're drawing, you're going to make a animation out of it. My recommendation is to find a place on the wall in your house where you're going to put this piece of paper and put tape around it so that the paper always hangs in the same place. On the floor, so like here's your wall, here's your paper, put a chair like this, facing backwards. This is what I do. If I were to do this, I have a scanner, so I don't have to do this. But most of the time I see people can't focus their camera. They can't get it centered. They can't get it the same size. Things get, you get closer or further away and everything changes. So you put your piece of paper on there and you mark it with tape. And you put your chair here and you mark it with tape. And you sit on the chair backwards, straddle the chair, put your elbows on the back of the chair, hold your phone up to your phone, your camera, whatever you're using, to your eye. Now I have to move this up a little bit because it needs to be squared up to the camera so that you can see the whole outside edges. See, like I've got right now, if you're doing it, if you take your picture so that the camera looks like this or like this, we're getting it distorted. We want to make it so that it's absolutely square on, okay? So that it's not distorted. The slightest bit of distortion is going to ruin it. So now you've got yourself set up so that you can always be exactly that far away. Or you could do it like a real animator and have an animator table. They would have a real camera table, is one with a camera suspended above it on a dolly that they can move back and forth and up and down, and it takes these pictures like that, and it's lit underneath. They put the cells on it. They put the backgrounds on it. They put the cells on it. They move the cells as they take the pictures, and the camera stays stationary. And there's pegs on here, and that's how a real, traditional camera table works. And I've seen them at Disney and Friends Studios that do animation. If you want to do it the traditional way, and there's nothing wrong with doing it the traditional way. I think it's an awesome thing. Okay, so that's the traditional, super easy way. Turn this off. Once you get all of your frames scanned, I wasn't expecting to do this, so I don't have the piece of stuff ready, but it'll only take me a minute to find it. Where's my project? Darn it. Oh, my tutorials and demos. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? Oh no, those are crap. Yeah, I really thought I had this organized. I went and spent a bunch of time getting my files organized, and it's not as good as I would hope it would be. Oh, let's check this out here. These are some samples from the old version of this class, where it was just, no, that was a different class. It was a pencil test. So that was all done with PDF. Okay, here's an example. Not photographed the greatest. As you can see, it's pink. I wouldn't recommend that, but so he's trying to do keyframes. So here's where the trick falls in. You get all of your drawings done, whether you do them on Studio Paint or you do it in some other program. You've got your frames and you want to make them into a quick animation. There's an easy way to do it in Photoshop. Now I use Photoshop CS6, so it may be a little bit different than what you're used to. We are going to try to get my Photoshop to come over here and play nice with me here on this page. There we go. All right, so we go import. Nope, scripts. We go to scripts. In fact, I'll switch to CC because that's what you guys have, even though I hate it. Slightly different. So in this case, I have several just individual frames. They're nothing to write home about. They're not that special. Okay. So you go File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack. This does exactly what it says it's going to do. It's going to load all of those. I have to go find them again. Someone shoot me now. Nope, not that one. Not that one, this one, that one. Here we go. All right. So there's all my, it could be JPEGs, they could be PSDs. The problem with this one is that it is numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it's a double number. So ideally, you want to have change this to 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. I'm just going to take it from 10 to 30 so that I don't have to deal with that. So I pick up all of those frames. And you can have it attempt to automatically align source images if you want, but I don't always trust the computer. And you just go OK. And it loads in all of your individual files into a multi-page or a multi-layer Photoshop file. Now, where's my layers file? There they are. As you can see, that's a lot easier than pasting them in one by hand, which I have done. Once you get them in like this, if you hold down the Alt or the Option key on your computer keyboard and click on the eyeball, you'll turn off all the other eyeballs. Once you do that, again, hold the Alt or the Option key. I love hotkeys, so take hotkeys, get your hotkeys. Use your bracket keys on your keyboard to walk down the frames. Do. I did not draw this. I don't think it's all that great, but it is a pencil test, so he's walk, 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 walk. Now, it's not perfect, and the things aren't lined up exactly as they should be. So it's an easy thing at this point to, and what you can do is you can go down this pretty quickly, too, without looking at it, so that, it's probably not showing up that great on the GoToMeeting, but you can go down pretty fast. So you're not having to poke at each layer with your mouse. You're just clicking down the layers like that. get down to the bottom, and if you need to, you can individually adjust each layer by turning on the layer below it and then putting the layer above it into 50%, which is easy to do. If you're in the Move tool, you hit the letter 5, you're at 50%. Now you can see both of them. So I find that you can look at all the literature about it. It'll talk to you about it. You'll want these feet to be anchored. There's two kinds of animation, right? There's the kind that move across, where it walks across the page, and then there's the one where it's running in place, like the background's going to scroll. Two different approaches. This one, he's going to walk across the page. So after I get one set, I go to the next one. I turn that to 50% and adjust the one below it to his foot, because his foot hasn't left the ground yet. So I turn this one to 50%, turn on the one behind it, and I can see also here that he's grown quite a bit, but we're not going to worry about that. His legs are different length, which isn't so great. So that frame probably needs to be redrawn. And won't go too far because it gets pretty tedious, as you guys have figured out. Now his foot has left the ground. So I'm going to look at where his head is, because his head should also follow this loop, this thing like that. All right. 50% now. And this one is, oh, he lands. Okay, that's his right foot. I would say landing right like that. So let me just go back and check. I'll turn all these guys on. You can see them ghosted there. I'll turn them all back to 100% and try walking down just those 10 frames. One. Whoops. And you might feel that that's better now. Maybe, maybe not. Once you get these things all sorted out, which shouldn't take very long if you've done them on the light table and everything's all lined up, it should just fall right into place. This is the only problem with Photoshop that I have. It's not really an animation tool, but you do have a window called timeline. Once you get your timeline, and I only know the barest minimum of how to make this happen, you're going to create your animation from this file. Make sure you're on frame animation. And then, and on the first one, I want to be on the first one just in case. Then you go to the flyout menu, and I can't remember how to do this. Crap. Hold on a second. Oh, no, we have to create it first, right? Okay, so we have to click on that and create one. It's been a while since I did this. So now we've got one frame, first frame on the timeline. Then we go to the flyout menu and make frames from layers. So it'll go through and it'll make a frame from all the layers. Now it's in a timeline instead of being in a list like that. So now you can play it, and it's running backwards, which is usually what happens to me, and I'm not sure why, except that I always seem to put them in upside down. But easy to fix, and it's going way too fast. So pull out my timeline, pull this out here. And I'm telling you guys, this is a hack, okay? I taught myself how to do this, and it seems to work. If you've got a better software to use, by all means, use it. But it's certainly some place to start. You can select the first frame, shift-click the last frame. You can go to your flyout menu if you're backwards like I am, and reverse frames. Now play it back, and it should go forward. Yep, going forward. Okay, cool. Now it's going way too fast. So I'm going to shift-click, select them all, and change the 1 second to 0.2 seconds. And let it play back now. And it's a little slower. Now there are fancy things you can do with timing. Make some a little longer, some a little shorter. That's not really the kind of animation we're doing. I'm only interested in getting your hand-drawn single image, a single ball into a sequence that you can play it back. Okay, once you're done with that, then you can save it. And I'm not, sometimes it gets to a point where I can't fix it because I don't know it well enough, so I just have to start all over. But it's a short process. We can save it, this as it is, untitled, and then we're going to export it. So you go File, Export, Render Video. And now it's initializing their video. All right, so this monstrosity here, you want to make sure that you select a folder where you can find the darn thing when you're done with it, because that's always a problem. I'm just going to put it to the desktop for now so I know where it is. And you don't want to touch this, I don't think. Leave it. Adobe Media Encoder, H.264 is fine. High quality is fine. The document, it can be that big, that's fine. Document frame rate is really 24. That's pretty much all you need to worry about. Render. And hopefully it rendered something. There it is, it's an MP4. So we'll open our MP4 and play it. Yay! However, it's only 4 seconds long, so I'm a second too short. So we need to go in and put a few more frames and adjust it. I mean, this is an iterative process. You do it one time through, then you watch it and you look and you say, how could I make this better? Well, that starting run is pretty wonky. I would go back and fix that. I already know we can loop this too. You can go up to QuickTime if you've got QuickTime Player, which I do, or whatever you're using on your PC. I can see that his proportions change, which is, we already knew that, so I would fix that. You can go back and just swap out an individual frame or whatever. You can work on it in another tool from here. You can work on it in Adobe Animator. You can work on it in Premiere. You can, once you get it into a list like this, it's easy enough. Now, let me show you one more thing going backwards. If you have done your animation, okay, and you've drawn it in Photoshop, so you've actually got layers. See if I can find a better looking one. I would like to have a better one. Oh, I know where it is. Because I did this really cool little tiny video that I would like to show you. I think it's under projects, of course. Oh, I cleaned my, found it. This is it. This is it. All right, this is my animation. I like this one, and I haven't finished it. I did this, I drew this in Photoshop based on a film capture of frames that I really liked. So we start up here with this, start down here with this one. Start at the bottom and work our way up. Now, it goes Alt. Okay, there, then, down, anticipation, leap, don't, jump, up, off. But I'm looking at a real person jumping. Actually, I'm looking at a stop frame animation, or a stop frame of a person jumping. I choose the frames for my keys, and I drew that. I like it. To me, that looks pretty good. It's not done yet, though. But he's got the anticipation. It's harder to do it from your mind. So that's why it's so important to observe the motion. Observe a bouncing ball. Yeah, of course you can use Adobe Animate. You can use Adobe Animate, you can use Photoshop, you can use Toon Boom if you want to, you can use Harmony, you can use anything that creates an AVI, an MOV, or an MP4. I don't mind. It's just got to be 5 seconds long, the ball's got to bounce 3 times and come to a stop. So that all I really care about is if you understand what happens in each frame as you go. This is just to say, you can use any tool you want to, I don't mind. as long as it gives you the results that you're looking for. Okay, so, oh, right. So say you were doing this in, you do this in Photoshop, and now you need to export all those frames to make a MP4, okay, to put it in the timeline. Or no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to know that. But if you want to export the frames individually for any reason, just to show you how to do it, you can export them in and make a layered file, or you can export them out to make a bunch of files. It's the same sort of thing in CS6. It's export layers to files, and in CC and CC. Yes, whoever you are in Discord, you are in the right spot. Let me open up that folder again. You do the same thing, but you do it backwards. You just go File, Export, and you export layers to files. Once you do that, you give it a name, what type. You can use any of these types. Put it someplace you can find it, and you'll get a whole list of files that are the same size, and you can put them into a different program to animate with if you want to. So if you wanted to build your animation in Photoshop because of the ability to use the onion skinning kind of effect, which is where you have the two layers and one layer is transparent, and you can see through it just like you would on a light table, that's fine. But say you don't want to mess with this whole Photoshop animation thing, then just export the frames as individual files and load it into some other program. And I think that's it. Are there any questions? No questions? Is that clear? So it works. And like I said, if you want to do hand-drawn and take photographs or scan it, well, the issues of saving it. What's your issue saving? Tell me what issue you're having. Go ahead and unmute and tell me what issue you're having saving it.
The issue that I have, and this is what this was one of the reasons why I'm retaking it, it's because of the same problem. I know how to use the animate, but whenever I tried to save it, it always saves it like in a MOV, and it doesn't work on my computer.
What kind of computer do you have?
It's a Windows. I've even downloaded QuickTime and all of that stuff, and nothing.
And what program are you using to export it?
Let's see. Well, the ones that it gives you is export movie, export video, export animated GIF.
Now you want to export a video.
And none of them let me.
It's Photoshop?
It's Photoshop Animator.
Okay. I do not know for sure. I'll have to look at the tutorials and find out. But
I even have the encoder plugged in. And in the beginning, I was able to save them as an MP4, but now all I get is a black screen.
Oh, that might be a different problem altogether. Okay, tell you what, yeah. we're gonna have to meet on that separately. I have to look at your setup and see what you're doing. It could be something the way that your files are set up. Probably they're transparent files and you don't have a background. It just automatically defaults to black. So if you put at the very beginning a background that's white underneath all of your layers and have it play that, keep the background the same throughout all the layers, it should fix it, but I'm not sure. I'll have to see it.
Yeah, that was the same issue I had the first time I took this course.
Okay. Well, we'll sort that out. Don't worry. We'll work it out. There's always a way to solve a problem, and I like solving problems. So if there's no other question, I'm going to go ahead and close this out and get back to my other class grading because I only have a few hours to finish. And if you guys need a little extra time on this very first thing, that's fine. Just upload what you have, even if it's in a mess, even if it's in a PSD, whatever you have, just upload it by tonight. And I'm actually traveling tomorrow and Sunday, but I'll have my laptop and I'll be able to check in, and we can set up a meeting like Monday to go over any issues, because the next milestone is due shortly after, and that's adding a tail, and that's a lot more complicated. Okay? All right, guys, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. We're all going to work together and make this thing happen, okay? So I'll see you. Yeah, just text me if you need something immediate. On my cell phone is the best way to get hold of me. Otherwise, Discord or through the classroom. Or you can try the Grasshopper app, but it's kind of weird. I mean, you don't know it's a Grasshopper. It's calling the 877 number. Okay? All right, good. That's all. I just want to make sure everybody's okay. I'm going to go now. All right. Very good. I will talk to you guys later. We're going to have a great semester.